Welcome everybody. This week's Torah portion is matot. The word matot is Hebrew for tribes. Moses conveys the laws governing the annulment of vows to the heads of the tribes of Israel. War is waged against Midian for their role in plotting the moral destruction of Israel. And the Torah gives a detailed account of the war spoils and how they were allocated amongst the people, the warriors, the Levites, and the high priest. The tribes of Reuben and Gad, later joined by half of the tribe of Manasseh, ask for the lands east of the Jordan as their portion in the promised land, these being prime pasture land for their cattle. Moses is initially angered by the request, but subsequently agrees on the condition that they first join and lead in Israel's conquest of the lands west of the Jordan. So that's what happened in this week's Parasha in a nutshell. Hope you enjoyed that nice slideshow. Those photos were made by artificial intelligence, as crazy as it sounds. Those are AI-generated photos on what happened in the Parasha. The summary itself comes from Chabad.org, so thank you Chabad.org for that summarized explanation, as always. And let's jump to chapter 31, verse 21, where we're going to be explaining the meaning of these verses. But before we get there, let me just give you some backstory. So, we already said that the Israelites are going to war against the Midianites. What are they going to war against the Midianites for? Because of what happened last week. Last week, the Midianite slave women came and seduced the Israelites. Technically, it wasn't the Israelites, it was the Arav Rav, really, that fell for it. Arav Rav is the group of people that they're Jewish, but they still haven't learned to take the aspect of Egypt outside of their own heart. Meaning, it's easy to take the Jews out of Egypt, but it's hard to take the Egypt out of the Jews. That's the verse that really explains this whole situation about the Arav Rav very well. That there's two groups among Israel. One of them is called Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. Those are the righteous. Those are the ones that are in touch with their neshama. They are coming from the soul of Moses and Aaron, and they are refined individuals. They are sinless, and they are disgusted by evil. They hate evil. On the other hand, you have another group called the Arav Rav. That's whenever the Torah says, Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, or the nation of Israel. That's referring to the mixed multitudes, which is the group of Egyptians that accompanied the Israelites upon their exodus from Egypt. They were there at Mount Sinai during the revelation on Mount Sinai, and they somewhat integrated into our people, and they became mixed in with the children of Israel. And these days, we don't know who is what, but we can give a good bet that we're coming from the side of the Israelites if our desire is pure and true with regards to our devotion to Hashem. You have to go inside and really sift your own mind, sift your own heart, sift your actions. You have to use the masach properly. Masach means the filter, which you use to take the good and take out the bad. Meaning use the good to serve Hashem and take out the bad, or transform the bad into good to use it to serve Hashem. So everybody has an aspect of the Arav Rav, these mixed multitudes, within them. That's the false belief system that every person has. That's the Arav Rav in you. Whatever false beliefs you have, that's the Arav Rav in you. Whatever false beliefs I have, that's the Arav Rav in me. Arav Rav are the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world. They are the Jewish individuals that... It's really hard to say this because, well, it's not talked about enough. It needs to be talked about more. That yes, they are Jewish technically because they assimilated and they became integrated with the Jewish people. They are Jewish. However, they have not taken out the Egypt from within their own heart yet, which means they still are idolaters. They still engage in sexual immorality. That's why we see sometimes some Jewish people in the media that they are not doing good things, like, I don't know, pedophiles or sex, doing weird things. I don't even want to talk about it. It gets me uncomfortable to talk about it, that people would do such a thing. But they exist, right? Sometimes we find out that they're Jewish. And we have to understand why. What's going on here? Are all Jews evil? They worship Satan, God forbid. So the anti-Semites or the ignorant people will probably resort to that type of a view. They say, oh, that's all the Jews, because we see Jews are doing evil things, very evil things. Therefore, all of the Jews are secretly working for the devil. We have a lot of crazy people out there. But Kabbalah is coming to bring clarity. Clarity. You want to know the truth? There are two groups among Israel. That's the truth. And these days, we're mixed. We're mixed. And each person needs to take their pointer finger. This is called the pointing finger. They have to take it and turn it 180 degrees at themselves. There is an aspect of the Arav Rav that exists within you. There is an aspect of the Arav Rav that exists within me. There's an aspect that exists within him, and there's an aspect within her. And every single person has to recognize that the war is within. The Jeffrey Epsteins of the world that we want to point and blame for all of the misery of the world exists inside of you. There is an aspect of the evil that you see outside that is really rooted within your own heart. We have to wake up. We have to transform. We have to change. If you exist in this world, if you breathe, you need to change, and you need to change now. Because if you leave it off, if you say, I'm not going to change now, I'll leave it for when I'm older, I'll deal with it later, I'll avoid it for now, I'll engage in my own sinful ways in thought, speech, and action today. In the future, maybe I'll start to think about doing teshuvah. Maybe I'll start to become shomer Shabbat. Maybe I'll eat kosher. Maybe I'll wrap tefillin in 30 years, 20 years. Perhaps you're going to say not 30 years. Maybe you're going to say I'll start next week. Maybe I'll start tomorrow. Now is the time, not tomorrow. The reason why I'm being so serious with this is because we're seeing the world slowly but surely rise up against not just the state of Israel, Jews. It has nothing to do with Israelis. This is regards to the souls of Israel. Every single person that has a soul from the Israelites, whether it be the aspect from the Arav Rav or the aspect which is coming from Moshe and Aharon, which is the Bnei Israel, the tzaddikim, the righteous individuals. Every single Jewish person is in the center stage. The world's attention is focusing in on the people of Israel and the children of Israel. These two aspects within Israel are the center of the stage right now. And we need to ask ourselves, why? Every single Jew needs to ask themselves, why? Why is this happening? Why did October 7th happen? What is going on? And the answer is that conflict avoided is conflict delayed and amplified. That's right. That means all of those aspects of your own selfishness that exist within your own heart, whether you know about them or you don't know about them, they're coming for you. Your own selfishness is controlling the events that happen in the physical world to turn against you. Nature gets turned against you when your nature is not subdued. The moment you control your nature, the nature of the world at large will help you. Nature means Elohim. Nature in Hebrew is Hateva, nature. Gematria, Elokim, the name of God, of judgment. Din, the attribute of judgment. Because nature is here to bring judgment, whether for the good or for the bad. But whatever it is, it's strict judgment. That means justice. Iran is a very radical country, I'm not going to lie. I'm Persian. But they cut off your arm if you steal. Why? Because with the same arm that you stole, you gotta pay. You gotta pay. Nature is the one that is truly rising up against the Arav Rav right now. Anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked. Let's learn something from the Parasha, if we don't mind. Now, in this week's Parasha, the Bnei Yisrael, the righteous among Israel, not the Arav Rav. Because remember, last week's Parsha, the Arav Rav got seduced by the Midianite slave women, and they brought a plague among Israel, 24,000 of whom perished. And Pinchas, who was a Bnei Israel, he was a righteous Israelite, he came and killed one of the Israelite leaders that was engaging in sexual immorality and worshipping idol with a Midianite woman. And he came and stabbed them with a spear and killed them both, and putting an end to the plague that was wreaking havoc among Israel. And this week's Parsha, God commanded Moses to send 12,000 people, 12,000 righteous people, tzaddikim. That means that they are from Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. And that means, what does it mean to be Bnei Israel? That means they are shomer brit. They preserve the sanctity of their sexual organ. They don't misuse their sexual organ. That's what makes them righteous. That's what makes them tzaddik. Holy, righteous. 12,000 righteous individuals, anashim, because the word anashim means people, but Kabbalistically it refers to righteous people, tzaddikim. It says that he sent 12,000 anashim to go to war against Midian. Why are they going to war with Midian? To get retribution, to get revenge. It's a form of vengeance for what happened last week when they caused so many people among Israel to sin. So God said, go. Take revenge on this people. And of course they won the war. Why? Like we said, they are shomer brit. A person who's shomer brit can win anything. If you're able to win the war against your own yetzer hara when it comes to preserving the sanctity of your brit, then you can win any war. This is the most beautiful message we have to understand, especially the men, especially the Jewish men. But this applies to all human beings. Universal truth, remember. But the Arav Rav that exists within every single Jewish person needs to be eradicated. And the way to eradicate it is by understanding this truth, which we're right now explaining. That if you can preserve the sanctity of your spirit, your sexual organ, which means your brit, all of the enemies that you have, you can subdue them all. That's what happened in this war against Midian. There wasn't even a chance. The Midianites did not stand a chance. We have to understand this. Not a chance. What would have given them a chance if, God forbid, one of these people were to have damaged their brit? Because a soldier is not a person with a gun. Is not a person with a sword. It's a person who has their own sword. Sorry for being a little bit graphic, but you know what I'm trying to say. Their sexual organ, which is in a way is a sword, under control. If you can use that weapon of yours properly, you can win any war. It's a very good chizuk. Chizuk means motivational message. Very important to understand this. So, after they beat the Midianites, it says, Eleazar the Kohen said to the soldiers returning from battle, "This is the statute that Hashem commanded Moses. Only the gold, the silver, the copper, the iron, the tin, and the lead. Whatever is used in fire, you shall pass through fire, and then it will be clean. It must, however, also be cleansed with sprinkling water, and whatever is not used in fire, you shall pass through water." So what is it saying? It's saying, all of these resources that you've accumulated because of your dominion over Midian, right? You got all of these metals, precious metals, gold, silver, copper, tin, lead, iron, all of these things. So what does this mean? Only the gold, the silver, the copper, the iron, the tin, and the lead. Why is it listing them? In Hebrew, we call them zahav, kesef, nechoshet, barzel, bedil, and ofaret. what is this all about? So I want to read from Pituchei Chotam by Rabbi Yaakov Abuchatzera, where he's explaining these 5 things. לשון מיעוט אומר להם יצר הטוב מעטו אלה הדברים ולא תרדפו אחריהם. The Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination, is speaking. The good inclination says, make sure you don't have any of these 5 things within you. These gold, silver, copper, iron, tin, and lead. We're going to learn what these are. They represent spiritual things that exist within us. The Yetzer HaTov is saying, make sure you exclude these 5 things from you within you. תחילה לא יהיה בכם להיטת הזהב והכסף. Don't have any eagerness for gold and silver. Don't chase wealth. Don't chase shiny gold and silver and luxury. No. So the first one, really it's the first 2, gold and silver, corresponds to mammon. Mammon means when you're chasing after material pleasures. Mammon means assets, possessions. Don't chase after mammon. Next. היו מודים על האמת, דבזה ניכר שאתם לומדים לשמה, ולא יהיה מצחכם נחושה מלחזור מסבורתכם ולהודות על האמת. It's saying you have to acknowledge the truth. Let's say you're engaging in a chavura or in a machloket with someone, you're learning Torah with them and you're debating something. If you realize you're wrong, admit it. Acknowledge the truth. That's why it says, et hanechoshet, copper. Milashon umitzchacha nechosha. It's saying, how do you say copper in Hebrew? Nechoshet. But the same word, nechusha, the same root word, means to be stubborn. For a person to be stubborn, that word in Hebrew is nechusha. The same letters for nechoshet, which means copper. From here we see, don't be stubborn. Don't be brazen. Don't be haughty. Don't be cocky. When you recognize the truth, admit it. Exclude and take out this attribute of copper, arrogance, from within you. And acknowledge the truth. So that's the copper. Furthermore, lo tihyeh kapdanim. You should not be impatient or strict, overly strict. You should not be impatient or overly strict. Ki lo hakpadan milamed. Because a person who's impatient cannot teach. He can't teach. Constantly he's going to be asked a question that he doesn't understand. How these people don't know the answer, and he gets impatient and he loses his cool. He's not a good teacher. A person who comes to you with a question, you have to treat them with compassion. You have to treat them with kindness. You have to recognize that yes, their question is coming from a good place, desire to know the truth. If it is. Sometimes our questions come from the Yetzer Hara as well, because we're trying to doubt Hashem or come up with an excuse to why we should not believe in Hashem, why you don't want to do the mitzvot. So you're going to ask a question in order to get an answer to verify your opinion that you don't believe in Hashem. That's coming from the Yetzer Hara. But if you're asking a question because you want to believe, you want to know the truth, you want to know God, that's coming from the Yetzer Hara. So, it's saying don't be impatient. Like iron. Why is iron compared to impatience? משום דכל עובדי ברזל, כשמוציאים אותו מן האש, ומכים אותו, אין יש קפדנות באותם ההכאות. Take a person who works with iron, a metal worker. They're called Ovdei Barzel, iron workers. For those of us who don't know, iron workers strike the iron right after they bring it out from the fire in order to shape it and mold it into the proper form that they're looking for. When they take the iron and they strike it, therefore, iron symbolizes strictness, impatience. Take that attribute out of feeling like you need to be so strict and powerful. No. The same way an iron worker, yes, he's striking. It's not that he's not striking. He's striking the iron. But not like with a sledgehammer. No. That's called hapkadim. Hapkadim is strictness, impatience. And that's why the word barzel in Hebrew, iron, is gematria hapkadan, strictness. The same numerical value. So now we see that's why iron symbolizes strictness. You got to take that out. Next. Lo tihye lomdim kol echad levado. You shouldn't learn alone. Rak barzel bebarzel yachad. Rather, iron sharpens iron. That's coming from a verse from Mishlei, Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 17. The Torah, the Rabim, adif. Collective Torah study is preferable. When you're learning Torah, you should always be in a group. The Tovim hashnaim min ha'echad. Because two is better than one. That's the verse which comes from Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verse 9. Ve'od, kedei she'yitbarer halimud al amitato. In order to clarify the truth. Whenever you're learning alone, you don't have a mirror to see where you're going wrong. But if you're learning with at least another partner, it's called a chavruta, they can see where you're going wrong, and then you can do a debate called a machloket in order to get to the truth. The purpose of this argument, this debate, is not to overpower each other, but it's to get to the truth. And you become closer to one another as a result of this debate. So you should always learn with a partner. That's one of my problems. I don't have so many friends to learn it with. But I consider you guys to be a good friend. Vezehu et habdil. That's what we call tin. The metal called tin. Lashon havdala. The word habdil, which means tin in Hebrew, is the same expression as havdala, separation. Separation means to differentiate, to separate yourself from the collective. Dehainu loti hu muvdalim zelazeh. You shouldn't remove yourself. You shouldn't separate yourself. Rak heyu lomdim bechavura. Rather, you should learn in a group. Vizehu et habdil. This is what we call tin. You got to take that attribute out of you that wants to separate itself and seclude itself without learning with a partner. Zot be'od loti hu kvedim ve'atzlanim. You shouldn't be lazy. De'ein Torah nikneit mitoch atzlut. Because you cannot acquire the Torah if you're lazy. Rak mitoch zerizut uzehirut. Only through diligence and carefulness. Meaning, you have to be very fast and diligent and vigilant in your observance of Hashem. In your service of Hashem. You're not lazy. Vezehu et ha-ofaret. That's what we call lead. Ofaret hu davar kaved. It's a very heavy item. Lead is heavy. When we call heavy, that means lazy. Being lazy and heavy is the same idea. A lazy person sits on the couch like a heavy thing. They're like a heavy thing, right? They lay on the couch because they're feeling heavy today. They're feeling lazy today. That's what lead represents. Kol ele hamidot tzerichim atem lema'at. All of these attributes, you have to exclude them. So just to give a quick summary. You should exclude the following attributes from yourself. Gold and silver, which means you should not run after possessions. You should also take out copper, which represents arrogance. Right? Don't be an arrogant person. Admit the truth. Acknowledge the truth. Whenever you see you're wrong, take the copper out of your being. Lo lihyot hapkadim. And fourth, iron. You shouldn't be so strict and overly impatient. No. You gotta press the person. That's true. You have to press them. Like the iron worker, he's hitting the iron. Each time he hits it is close to the next time he hits it. It's quick, immediate hits. But it's not so hard. No. Gently. Gently. That's the way that you have to be. And don't be so overly strict. And then we've got the tin, which means learning alone. Don't separate yourself from society and learn on your own. And finally, we've got lead. Don't be lazy. These attributes need to be eradicated. We have to take them out. That's why Elazar the Kohen told these soldiers that were returning from the battle against Midian, all of this gold and silver and copper and iron and tin and lead that you've acquired, you got to pass them through a fire and then it will be clean. What's that mean, really? All of these attributes, these negative attributes that have latched themselves onto you as a result of this war. Because whenever you engage in a war, there's bloodshed, there's a lot of very graphic nature involved things happening here. The Midianites were selfish people, and some of their attributes got latched onto the Israelites. Right? You've ever heard of when righteous people, they go into a crowd, they acquire some sort of, if they're not fully protected completely, even if they are, they still have to go and purify themselves. That's what the mikveh is for. That's why we go to the mikveh. We submerge ourselves in waters. But here he's telling them you have to pass these items through a fire. Remember, these are all metaphors for spiritual things. The fire represents doing the proper cleansing internally, the proper work, in order to transform the dinim, the gevurot, the judgments, into rachamim, because they acquired so much dinim. Dinim are judgments, decrees, punishments. They're ideas of things that are going to bring you problems if you don't transform them. And they acquired a level of dinim as a result of their war with Midian. And therefore they need to go inside and pass these elements, all of the gold, all the silver, meaning all of the arrogance, all of the negative attributes that they acquired, the laziness, all of these things. They have to go inside and cleanse themselves properly. And that's the way that they're going to be basically restored back to their original sanctity. Because, whenever a person kills someone, they acquire a level of impurity. Even if you're a righteous person. Even if you touch a dead corpse, you don't even have to kill the person. Just by touching a dead corpse, you also become impure. That's why all of us are impure today. Because we've all been in the same room as a dead person. Even being in the room with another dead person, or touching someone who was in a room with a dead person. Everyone in the world today is considered to be tumat met. They have the impurity of touching a dead body, because without having the proper purification, which is only through the chokhmah of Kabbalah that you learn how to do it, you're considered an impure vessel and you're unable to receive the light of your soul, which means it hovers and waits outside of you until you purify your vessel, which is when it can finally enter the body to do its work of why it came here in the first place. You have to purify the vessel in order to bring it in. You have to exclude these 5 elements. You've got to take out the gold, the silver, the copper, iron, tin, and lead from your own being. And then you will merit to draw down the light of your nefesh, ruach, neshama into your mind, heart, and body. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a little bit of a longer video, and I hope that you were able to benefit from it. I know that the concepts were a little bit foreign to most people, Kabbalistic ideas, again, but I hope that slowly we're all becoming more familiar with these ideas, and we're teaching them over to our friends. First, we've got to learn it properly. If you need to, then go back into the video, and then share. But if you have questions, comment them in the questions. Q&A. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a conversation. Let's build a community. I would love to. That's my ideal futuristic, dream, is to have a community of people that we're learning together this chokhmah. I don't care if you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Christian. I don't care what religion you come from. You're Hindu, you're Buddhist. Doesn't matter. we all need to unite against evil and for the light. We have to unite together for the light. I don't care if you're Jewish, and I don't care if you are Muslim, or if you are Christian. But the one thing I care about, take the gold, silver, copper, iron, tin, and lead out of your own heart. Each person needs to take their finger and turn it 180 degrees towards themselves. Because the war is within. Never point outside. Always point inside. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everybody, thanks for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't be afraid to share this video with your loved ones, as we know that we are trying to reach as many souls as we possibly can with the wisdom of the Torah, specifically its inner dimensions called Kabbalah, which is the mystical secrets that are contained within God's holy Torah. And I invite you to join me on this effort to spreading this wisdom to the four corners of the world so we can prepare for what we've all been waiting for, the final redemption, where Israel will be redeemed along with the righteous Gentiles.